Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Green on the Greens. Myself and Cody Williams here in the aftermath of the PGA Championship. Justin Thomas wins his second ever major tournament, his second ever PGA Championship after being down as much as 8 strokes, I think he was, at one point on Sunday. Cody, do you have any quick thoughts about the PGA Championship?
I mean, I told you I was excited, really excited for the tournament going into it. About midway through Saturday, I was a lot less excited. It just kind of felt very monotonous. The coverage wasn't great. But then, the finish we got on Sunday was, it's what makes golf fun, man. It was heartbreaking for Mito, but I mean, just having a packed leaderboard and then getting 2 guys with the talent of Zalatoris and JT in a 3-hole playoff, that's what makes golf fun. And it was just a ton of joy to watch that finish.
Did you groom your mustache or something today? It looks extra fantastic.
I did not, but I appreciate it. I always like the compliments.
Maybe it's a mustache. Is it new glasses or something? I don't know. You're looking spiffy today.
I think it might actually be the fact that it's cloudy outside for once, and so I don't have a terrible backlight behind me.
Maybe that's what it is. PGA Championship happened. Let's recap our picks really quick, and then I'm going to talk about one of our. Actually, he ended up being the only winner for both of us, to be honest. You had Louis Oosthuizen, correct?
Yes, I did.
He finished T6.
He played horribly.
He did play horribly. Unfortunately, not quite bad enough to miss the cut. You had Matt Fitzpatrick top 20 at around plus 190, I believe the odd. That cashed for you. He, of course, finished T5. Shane Lowry missed out on the top 10 for you. He finished T23. Hideki Matsuyama, what happened to him this week? He had him top 5. He finished T60. And then winner Rory McIlroy, he ended up finishing 8th. But there was a time on Sunday, didn't he start 4 under through the first 5 holes or something?
Oh yeah, he birdied 2, 3, 4, and 5, and I was like, "All right, let's go. We're alive again."
And he had, it seemed like every hole he lipped out for birdie after that too. And then he kind of fell apart at the very end. But there was a stretch that he had a ton of birdie putts that lipped him.
If the PGA Championship didn't involve putting, it would have been a playoff between Rory and Cam Smith. Those 2 guys were all over the hole and could not make a putt.
Cam Smith, who's been one of the best putters on tour this year. I think he led the field in approach, but couldn't sink a putt.
Yeah, I actually heard someone talking about it. I can't remember exactly who it was, but they said that, and I did not realize this, but historically Cam Smith putts way better on faster greens, and with all we heard about these greens being kind of slow, I think that might have been a factor for him. But yeah, it was. Even then, it was still shocking to see how badly he putted when he led the field in approach.
Put that little note in the back of our minds that Cam Smith better on fast greens. My picks, I had Tony Finau T30. I had him to miss the cut. He finished T30. I had Billy Horschel top 20. He finished 68th. Daniel Berger top 10. He missed the cut. I think I'm off Daniel Berger at majors now. Top 5, Matt Fitzpatrick. He did just squeeze in there at T5, so thankfully that hit. Winner Xander Schauffele pulled the classic Xander and finished T13. Heading into Sunday, so not only did I have Matt Fitzpatrick 50-1 to win, as well as top 5, I also do a pool that I'm in that I enter for every major golf tournament I have for the past couple of years. It's a friend of a friend who runs it. It's 800 plus entries, $25 each. So first place, you get $7,000. Heading into Sunday, I was in, I think, 33rd place. And late in the round is as high as 7th, and 7th, even that would have paid $800 or something. So I had that, plus I had a Matt Fitzpatrick 50-1 ticket. Of course, neither come through for me. I had Rory in the pool. He fell off. And then JT, I didn't have JT. So then his kind of late surge obviously kind of took me out of the running. A bunch of people who had JT ended up asking me. I finished 2 strokes out of the money in that. So I had an all-time heartbreak of a Sunday. There was a time where I could have cashed a 50-1 ticket on Matt Fitzpatrick and won almost $1,000 in the golf pool. Walked away with, I guess I got top 5, 7-1 of Matt Fitzpatrick, but that feels like nothing compared. I could have been rich.
I know it, man. And the thing about Rory is him. I appreciated why he fell off. He bogeyed 17 because he was going for it. He realized that the scores were out there to where if he birdies the last 2 holes, then he's going to be in it. And so he went for it, and that's what cost him. He shot it over the green on 17, I think it was, and he ended up bogeying. But I mean, it sucks that it cost you, but I respect of how he fell off, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Fitzpatrick. Actually read a really interesting article in Golf Digest, I think. Daniel Rappaport, who's like good friends with Matt Fitzpatrick, talked about that round. And he said that like basically right off the start, he knew it wasn't going to go well because apparently his miss is some kind of like a push something, some very specific miss off the tee. And that's what Fitzpatrick was hitting basically all day. And he hit it even worse on 17, which, I mean, Fitzpatrick birdie 17. I think that would have got him to 5 under, but I think he either bogeyed. I think he bogeyed it.
Yeah, he bogeyed it for sure.
Yeah,
and did he birdie 18 to get it back?
No, I think he birdied 18.
Okay.
I could be wrong on that though, but regardless, he could have, if he birdied the easiest hole in the course and then par 18, he would have been in that playoff. So all-time stinger of a weekend for me. But we move on to the Charles Schwab Challenge. Last recap we got to do from the PGA Championship. You, my friend, have taken a 2-1 lead on me in closest to the win. So any new viewers who are not aware what closest to the win is, I actually didn't explain it last week, and I got messages, and they're like, what does closest to the win mean? They thought it was a type of bet. They were searching their sports book for the closest to the win bet. No, it's not a type of bet. It's a little friendly competition myself and Cody are doing throughout the golf season. We pick one golfer each that whose odds at win bet are at least 150 to 1, so a complete long shot. And then whichever of the two golfers finishes closer up the leaderboard at the end of the week, that person gets a point. So Cody, you now have the 2-1 lead on me. Harold Varner was your closest to the win pick last week. He finished T48. My pick was Adam Hadwin, who finished T71. So both our guys made the cut, but Varner finished slightly further up the leaderboard. So congratulations. You now are in the lead, and the loser has to pay for a round of golf for the winner at the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, Varner actually could have finished a lot higher. I think he lost over 3 strokes putting, if not more. Like, he just putted horribly and gained everywhere else. So, I mean, T48 is actually, he probably walks away from that feeling disappointed.
Yeah, for sure. But good enough for you. It got the job done for you for close to the win. So let's start off with our closest to the win picks this week. Go ahead and give me your 150 to 1 or longer long shot for the Charles Schwab Challenge.
I'm going with Mark Hubbard, Homeless Hubs, this week. He's at 175 to 1 on WinBet. He's played this tournament the past 2 years at Colonial, and he's made the cut both times, and he was also T43 in 2020. And he's coming in relatively decent form. He's made the cut in 3 of his last 4 events, including 32nd at the Byron Nelson. It's Mark Hubbard. There's a reason he's 175 to 1, but he's not playing terribly. He's lost strokes putting and losing strokes off the tee, but he's an accurate hitter off the tee, which you need at Colonial. And he's gaining about 0.35 strokes on approach per round. So I think that his game fits well for him to maybe not contend, but to make the cut and not, eject.
My golfer is also 175 to 1. This is a guy who's one of my favorite long shot golfers. I've never cashed on him as a long shot, but I've certainly bet on him quite a bit. That is Emiliano Grillo. Made 2 straight cuts. He has at 175 to 1. And a big thing is in my opinion, is the approach yardage from 125 to 175 yards this week at Colonial. He ranks 11th in proximity from 125 to 150 and 6th in proximity from 150 to 175. So I think his approach game fits well for Colonial. So my closest to the win pick, Emiliano Grillo.
Big team no putt guy. Dude cannot handle the flat stick.
Definitely cannot. That is for sure. And I love when we talk close to the win and making 2 straight cuts is like, he's in good form. Before that,
sometimes it's all you need.
He missed like 6 straight cuts before that. So come on, Emiliano. I need you to pick things up a little bit. I need to even this series back up. Before we get into our actual picks, I should say our bets to win the Charles Schwab Challenge, I just mentioned I looked up at Data Golf, and it seems like that range from 125 to 150 and then 150 to 170, especially 150 to 175, is more important at Colonial than other courses. Data Golf check out that website if you want a real in-depth look at these courses. But it gives you like how many approach shots come from certain distances at an average PGA Tour course, and then how the course this week compares to those. And it looks like it's not a lot of long approaches, which is what we've seen the past few weeks, but a lot of more the kind of mid-range approaches. So that's where I'm looking at big time this week. And it's kind of a weird course, but yeah, because you have to be a good driver, but you don't necessarily have to be long. But accuracy, like it's less about just hitting fairways. It's actually more about like specifically what part of the fairway you hit. So accuracy is a little bit important as well, but I think it is a ball striker's course, more specifically kind of that 50-yard range between 125 to 175. Thankfully, this is the first course in a few weeks, it feels like, where we have a lot of historical data to look at. So that's good. So I'm going to narrow in on that 50-yard range. Do you have any thoughts about how to attack Colonial from a betting standpoint?
No, I mean, you said it perfectly. I mean, it's one thing I read is there's a stat out there like good drive percentage, which kind of measures what you're talking about, putting the ball in the right spot. Doesn't necessarily mean it's in the fairway, but you're not in a bad spot. Basically, like you're not blocked off from your approach, and that's what's really important. And then, like you said, like we've seen a lot of courses recently where long approaches have been really crucial, and this is short to intermediate approaches where you need to be really dialed in. So, but I mean, you were spot on with everything you said.
Perfect. All right, then let's get into our picks. Let's start with our pick to miss the cut. Yours was quite a surprise to me. Go ahead and break it down.
All right, I'm going with the guy who finished runner-up at the PGA Championship, Will Zalatoris, to miss the cut.
How dare you?
I think it's
my best friend.
Hey, I love Willie Z too. So I'm we're not close personal friends, but I love watching him play golf. But I think this first came into my head because I think last week just drained him. I think it has to if you're, a guy in your mid-20s and you were that close to winning getting your first win since you got to the PGA Tour, being at a major championship, and you came up short in a playoff. Like, you beat everybody in the field except for one guy over 72 holes, and you still lost. And, like, that's really tough to swallow. And, I mean, it was a tough course. It was a tough walk. And I think it's fair to expect a letdown from anyone. But then going back to what we were talking about with driving accuracy, you do need to be – it's not necessarily totally penal if you're not on the fairway, but he's 189th on tour this season in driving accuracy. And I think that could really put him in a bind, especially if he's in bad spots with, being weathered from last week. And so I think that, when you throw all that together, I think it's just prime for a letdown this week. And I know you're going to get good odds because he's one of the favorites to win this week. So I'm banking on Will Zalatoris to miss the cut.
To your point, there are a few guys this week who I'm surprised, at least I haven't seen. I'm surprised haven't withdrawn. Like I'm surprised Will Zalatoris hasn't withdrawn. Justin Thomas, who, like, when guys win a major, they almost never play the next week. Justin Thomas is still in the field right now. I saw Bubba Watson withdrew. Apparently, he was impressive performance by him at the PGA Championship. It's hurt, but so I'm kind of surprised Zalatoris and JT are still competing this week as of right now.
Yeah, Bubba's out. I saw almost 2 months. So he tore his meniscus. So that's tough. But if he played on that, good God, what a performance.
It looks like he's going to miss the Travelers Championship next month, which is my yearly tradition of just auto bet Bubba Watson.
Right?
4 times, I think.
Bubba at Travelers and Webb at Wyndham. Those are the 2 auto bets, man.
Yeah, I think he's won it 4 times. There's even one year that I think he had like a big lead and then choked down the stretch of the final 9. So he was like very close to being like a 5-time winner. Maybe he's only won it 3 times. And regardless, he's crushes the Travelers, and it looks like he's not going to be able to play it because of his injury. So, but I would not be shocked if Justin Thomas and or Will Zalatoris withdraw by the time Thursday comes around. But usually you would hear that by now. But that's something to keep an eye on. My pick to miss the cut, he's a guy who I faded on Sunday, and I wish, I guess he had a good first few rounds at the PGA Championship, but actually one of his best finishes of the season. Abraham Answer. Big name guy that a lot of people like to bet on, but he's not performing well at all this year. I know this is kind of tough to say after a T9 on a major, but he only has 3 top 10s this season, only 4 top 25s. He actually has just as many missed cuts this season as he has top 25 finishes, so which is surprising because Abraham Answer has made a name for himself on tour. But one of my favorite things to do is fade golfers who have a name that people recognize who actually aren't performing well this season. 99th in total strokes gained, 130th in strokes gained tee to green, 101st in strokes gained approach. I need to see him put up more than just one strong performance at the PGA Championship before I'm back on the answer train. So I'll take him to miss the cut this week.
Yeah, and then I will say, going back to the withdrawal point, if Bryson DeChambeau actually does tee it up because he's listed as in the field and he doesn't withdraw, I'm also going to pick him to miss the cut. But I just assume that he's going to withdraw with all the talk about his wrist and how it's still swelling and stuff like that. But I mean, he's 55-1 at WinBet, and like you can probably get plus odds on him to miss the cut. And an unhealthy Bryson, or coming back with rust and playing on a course where you need to be at least decently accurate, fade that.
It seems strange to me that he was hurt enough that he was going to withdraw from the major, but then a week later he's good enough to play in a Charles Schwab challenge. Like, if you're hurt enough to not play in a major, like take more than like 5 days off. So that's a good point as well. If he does play, fade away. Top 20.
Top 20 this week, I'm going with a guy that you like, and I assume you would like him for this week, Brian Harman, to top 20. I saw him at oh, yeah, you're lefty and you're short hitter on a relatively short course. So, he fits the bill for you. But he's plus 220 consensus odds to top 20, which I like those odds. And he's also coming off a performance late in the PGA Championship, which really makes me like him a lot coming into this week. Despite, having JT and Zalatoris coming down the stretch in the playoff, it was actually Harman who led the field at the PGA Championship in the final round in strokes gained approach. He's also 11th on tour in driving accuracy. And over his last 2 tournaments, he's gaining 1.26 strokes on approach per round. Like I said, it's not a place where you're going to need a whole lot of length off the tee, and that's where Brian Harman can pop up and succeed. I don't think he's going to contend. I don't think he's going to win, but I think he's going to play solid golf throughout the week, and I think that's going to put him in a good spot to top 20 this week.
Yeah, I'm not gonna argue against a Brian Harman pick for sure. Didn't know about those strokes gained approach numbers. I like that quite a bit. So Brian Harman, top 20. What'd you say his consensus odds are?
Plus 220. So for a top 20, I like that a lot.
Pretty solid value there as well. My top 20 bet is a guy who I feel like we've talked about several times on the show. One of the best names on the PGA Tour, Christian Bezuidenhout, to finish in the top 20. I think the course fits him well. This is certainly not a guy you want to bet on if it's a bomber's course because he's not a long hitter. He's not good with his long approach game, but he ranks 27th in approaches from 125 to 150 yards, 9th in approaches from 150 to 175 yards. He's a good golfer. He's a good, talented golfer. He's had some strong finishes this year, and I think this course fits him, especially with where most of the – and there's hardly any long approaches on this course. Like, they're either mid-range or short range. So I think this style of course fits him quite a bit. Christian Bezuidenhout to finish in the top 20.
I'm not going to argue with you on that either. I mean, you've said it before when you've talked about him previously that he's the type of guy that when it's, a little bit of a difficult course, that's when he tends to pop up and shine a little bit. He tends to rise to the top when the cream does, he just rides the wave there. And so it's a good field and it's a historic, tough course. And I think that's a really good pick for a top 20.
All right. Let's see if we're going to disagree at some point on this show. Give me your top 10 pick.
You might hear, actually. For top 10, I'm going with Tommy Fleetwood. I saw him about say what?
I said, yeah, I hate that pick.
Cool. Well, I'll let you play devil's advocate here in a second. So he's about plus 350 consensus odds to top 10 this week. At the PGA Championship, he played really well. Obviously, he finished T5 after a great final round, but he also improved over every round, which is something I like to see. That means, he is finding his form throughout a major championship, which is really nice to see. He gained 6.02 strokes ball striking at Southern Hills, which I think is a great sign because previously I had faded Tommy Fleetwood because he was gaining nothing. He was gaining all of his strokes and performing decently because of his short game. Well, the short game was still a positive this week, but he's also gaining strokes ball striking now. And previously, when Fleetwood was popping up a lot, that was his MO, was he was a great ball striker, a great iron player. And so I really like for him to capitalize off what he showed at the PGA and keep improving and getting to the top 10. He's shown some good form recently. He was T10 at RBC and T14 at the Masters. Like I said, that was short game, buoyed. But, if you pair that with the approach play improving as it has over the past few tournaments, I think he's primed to, come up with the Tommy Fleetwood top 10 where he's not actually in contention but is in the top 10?
I tried to look up some numbers so I could argue with you just because I wanted to play devil's advocate. And I actually didn't come up with too many points. He's not great from the range of 170 or 150 to 175. He's 136th the proximity on tour for that. So that might be my main argument if I'm, grasping at straws a little bit to just play devil's advocate here. And he has what? How many top 10s does he have this year? 4?
Oh, I do not.
I thought I had it in front of me. 3 top 10s. So that would be my other devil's advocate. 3 top 10s so far this year.
Well, in argument to that, like I said, his approach play early in the season was terrible. So that approach number does not surprise me. But I think he's been trending upwards and finding his game of what used to be his MO and what made him successful. So, I'm definitely banking on Fleetwood trending towards a top 10 rather than him having shown that he's a top 10 type player.
Yeah, you're probably right. I just wanted to be a jerk and just play devil's advocate. All right, my top 10. Feel free to play devil's advocate for this one, but it's going to be hard to because I'm actually going to go Kevin Na. We were just talking about guys who are good at certain. We just talked about guys who are good at certain courses. Kevin Na, his best course might be Colonial. He won it in 2019. He has finishes here of 4th, 7th, 9th, 10th, and 13th. He is first on the PGA Tour and approaches from 125 to 150 yards, 4th and approaches from 150 to 175 yards. So fantastic history at this course, and it makes sense because that 100 nobody is better from 125 to 175 yards than Kevin Na. His form's not good enough for me to kind of want to take him top 5 or to win. I might sprinkle on him to win just because of his history here, but hey, good history. Course seems to fit his style. Kevin Na to finish in the top 10.
All right, so here's a little devil's advocate for you.
Uh-oh.
His course history might be good, but the last 2 years he missed the cut in 2020, and then he was T32 last year.
Okay, so 2020 was COVID year. So that was the first tournament back. I think Charles Schwab Challenge was the first tournament from the break. So my devil's advocate to your devil's advocate is that that we just can't count that one because everyone just had 3 months off. So I won't harp on him too much for that one. As far as last year, I don't have
the second part. So, but the other thing, and I saw Kevin Na, and I know his history here, and his game seems to fit. But I do somewhat worry about a lot of these guys who have been closely connected to the live golf stuff playing in Saudi Arabia. And he's obviously one of them. Like, he had the big Saudi golf logo on his collar a couple weeks ago. And I mean, this isn't even a morality thing. I just worry that that's a big distraction, and golf is such a mental game. And I know it's hard to play, sports psychologists from, our living rooms, but that does worry me. And so for me, those guys are stayaways.
I don't think that's probably a fair point because I don't think a single person who's flirted with going over there has done well lately.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably coloring why that perception is there for me, but I just look at it and I'm like, that's got to be, like, with all the criticism that's coming around it, like with golf being such a mental game, that has to weigh on you to some degree.
All right, let's move on to top 5. Hit me up with your top 5.
I'm going with the squarest top 5 bet on the board. My guy, Jordan Spieth. He's a fan favorite, but he is the definition of a horse for Colonial. In just the last 5 years, he has 2 second-place finishes and 2 additional top 10s on top of that. But let's also not forget he won it here in 2016 and has another second-place finish here outside of the last 5 years. He is just dominated at Colonial. He's also coming off a PGA Championship where he was outside the top 40, but that was, again, because of the putter. For whatever reason, Jordan Spieth can't putt right now, which still feels weird to say, but his approach game is as good as it's been in the past 2 or 3 years right now, and the driver has gotten better. He's eliminated a lot of the big misses. Like, he'll still miss, but he's eliminated the horrendous, I don't know where that swing came from. It may not be pretty, but he is playing some of the best approach play of his life. And with his history at this course, I think a top 5 at plus 300 consensus odds, I think that's a great bet.
Yeah, I want to argue with it because generally I'm not a fan of betting on Jordan Spieth. But you're right. I think I saw it today. I think over the past certain amount of rounds, or maybe it's just everyone's overall rounds, like he's been gaining more strokes at Colonial than any other golfer in the field this week. So if it was any other course, I would stick my flag in the ground and argue to the death about Jordan Spieth. But I'll pick my battles, and I don't think this week is a battle I want to take on. So while
I'd be alongside you.
Yes. I will not be betting on Jordan Spieth this week, but I won't argue against it too much.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be alongside you any other week, but I mean, I can't argue with 4 top 10s in the last 5 years, and that doesn't include his win at this course. Like, that's just it's insane. And I mean, it fits that it's also in Texas. You know what I mean? Like he plays well in Texas. So
good point. My top 5. This might surprise you a little bit. A guy who quietly actually had a very solid PGA Championship, and not many people talked about him, is Webb Simpson. I think I'm hear the ice cream truck outside my window. I kind of want an ice cream. Webb Simpson finished in the top 5 here. Like I said, did not have a very good start of his season, but he's rounding in form a little bit. T20 at the PGA Championship. He's performed well at Colonial in the past. He has a 3rd place finish here. He has a 5th place finish here. And this kind of mid-range is kind of where he's good with his approach. 27th on the PGA Tour, despite it being an off year for him. 27th in proximity from 125 to 150, 56th in 150 to 175. So this might just be a little bit more than anything else. It's a little bit more of an eye test, a little bit more of a gut feeling pick, which I don't normally like to do. But I watched some decent amount of Webb Simpson this week, and I was off him for the first half of the season. But something tells me he's rounding in a form here. I think we might see some good Webb Simpson performances coming up.
No, I can't argue with that. I watched a good more Webb than I expected to this weekend, and I mean he looks more like Webb Simpson that we're accustomed to seeing, which he did not early in the season. Which I think that makes. I mean, I think you're probably getting ahead of any boom for him too. So I think you're going to get good value. This is the time to bet on him. So I really like that a lot.
Exactly. I think now is like a little bit of a sneaky buy low spot on Webb Simpson before other people catch on. So not a pick that I have, a ton of numbers, a list of numbers to back up, a little bit more of an eye test pick. And I'm not usually an eye test guy, but if you want to really buy low on guys, that's kind of what you have to do. Because once they have the numbers, a ton of numbers to support it, everyone else is going to be betting on him too. So a little bit of a eye test buy low bet, Webb Simpson top 5 this week. All right, let's get to it. Our pick to win the Charles Schwab Challenge. Go ahead.
I'm going with a guy who's been trending with all of the young, Korn Ferry graduates this year, but hasn't gotten nearly the recognition as, your Cameron Youngs and obviously your Mito Pereiras. I'm going with Davis Riley to win this week.
Oh.
Here are Riley's past 4 tournaments and his finishes. He was T4 at the Zurich alongside Willie Z. He was T5 at the Mexico Open. He was T9 at Byron Nelson. And then he was quietly T13 last week at the PGA Championship. The dude is just playing tremendous golf right now. And he's doing it. One of the things, early in the season, he was, making cuts with his short game, but his approach play and his off the tee game have really turned to the corner recently. Over his last 12 rounds, he's gaining 1.5 strokes tee to green, and that's pretty much split evenly between approach and off the tee of how he's doing it, and ball striking. And his short game has continued to be good. And then on top of that, I really like the narrative of an Alabama guy and someone who's friends with Justin Thomas getting his first PGA Tour win the week after JT gets his second major. And so, when you throw in the narrative, you throw in the fact that this dude is obviously trending, and I think it's time for him to get over the hump and get his first win on the PGA Tour.
Is that a trend to bet on fellow alumni of certain schools the week after someone else wins a tournament?
Well, they're also friends, Ian. Dang. He's got good vibes. Good vibes matter, Ian.
I do agree. He has been hot lately, though. He's been hot, and you're right. That was a very quiet, T13, you said, at the PGA Championship?
T13, yeah.
I did take him to matchup bet. I think it was against Fowler in the last round that won for me, so I like that bet. A little 40-1 pick to win. Usually our picks to win are a little bit further up the odds list, so I like that. 40-1.
Last time I had a 40-1 pick, it was Max Homa. So let that be your guide.
That's a fact. All right, my pick to win is a guy who you've bet on a few times on the show. I think this is my first time taking him. Do you have a guess?
Is it Victor Hovland?
Victor Hovland. Yeah.
Let's go!
I'm taking your boy. I think this is the time to do it. I really didn't like him last week, the PGA Championship, because chipping was important, and that kind of proved to be true. I hear that chipping is a lot easier at Colonial. This is purely a ball. Like I think this is gonna like a ball strikers contest, and then a ball strikers contest. Let's take a shot at Victor. His putting did concern me a little bit. But I mean, 14th in strokes gained off the tee, 3rd in strokes gained approach, 3rd in proximity from that key distance of 125 to 150 yards. If this turns into just a purely ball strikers event, like Victor Hovland at the very least is going to be in contention on Sunday. And with the around the greens areas not being too tough, I'm hoping his chipping doesn't cost him too much. If his putter is even like decent this week, I think Victor Hovland will be in contention late on Sunday. So I've been waiting because I like Victor Hovland, but I just tournaments late as of late, and you see that with his finishes. Like he's not technically in good form, but I think that's more of a result of types of courses that have been on the PGA Tour recently. A lot of them have had tough, around the green areas. Yeah, his last 3, T27, T29, T40, T41. But now I think like I said, I don't think that's a result of him playing poorly. I think it's more the result of courses not matching his style of play. So give me Victor Hovland. Finally, I get to bet on him. I think this is the week to do it.
You're obviously going to get no argument from me. When we had the Masters pool from BetSided, my entry name was Victor Hovland, fan club president. So I thought about picking him this week, but I have tried to temper that for this show because I feel like anytime Victor Hovland's in a field, I feel compelled to pick him because I love his game, and so I'm tailing. That's all I got to say.
Now he did play here once. He played here in 2020, the first event back from the COVID break. 23rd, so not a terrible finish. He did get better as the week went on, though. He went 70, 68, 68, 66. So. At the very least, he's played this course before. He has at least that 1 year of experience here. So I like it. I think it's a little bit of a good buy low spot on Victor.
No, absolutely. And I mean, like you said, he's not been in the best form, but it's not necessarily his form that's been the problem, but as much as it has been the courses that he's been on. So yeah, I'm with you 100%.
And I just love to see him win because every time he wins, there's like the clip goes around Twitter of the Norwegian announcers announcing like his winning putt, and they announce it like they're watching soccer and they go nuts. So that's my thing to look forward to whenever Victor wins. So Victor Hovland to win the Charles Schwab Challenge.
Let's go.
All right, that's the show. Miscut, top 20, top 10, top 5 to win. A little closest to the win pick as well. We covered it all, PGA Championship recap, all that good stuff. Now is the part of the show, Cody, where every single week I ask you, what's the PGA Tour event last week? Because I forgot to look it up again. Do you know what it is?
No, I do not. Thanks for asking.
Next week is, it's the Memorial next week.
Oh, God, we probably should have known that one.
Should have known that one. One of the better non-major events. And then the week after is the Canadian Open. Which I'm first time in a long time.
National championship.
Yes, first time in a long time that the Canadian Open has happened. Hasn't happened since pre-COVID. Our national championship. Lots of Canadians will be there.
As long as they aren't in Saudi Arabia, because that is also the first week of the Live Golf. So
that is true. Yes. Wasn't there like a Canadian? I mean, we're getting ahead of ourselves 2 weeks in advance, but I think there was an amateur Canadian that was like at the top of the leaderboard, like heading into the weekend a few years back. Did I dream that, or do you remember that at all?
No, I remember that. I am trying to dig for the name in my brain, and I'm coming up with nothing. That's what we haven't seen in way too long. I want to see an amateur win a tournament. It's not going to happen. Let's do it. Yeah. And no, the tour is way too deep. I mean, Justin Thomas talked about it after winning the PGA. Like, he got asked why he was so emotional because that's not really, you don't really see Justin Thomas be emotional, like in terms of like breaking down and crying and stuff like that after a victory. And he was asked about it and he goes, winning this, it makes you realize how precious it is because it's become so much harder to win.
Yes.
And so to be able to do it at this level is just, it got him emotional. And so, that's a long-winded way of saying that it's really hard to think that an amateur is going to win a PGA Tour event.
Do you remember the last
soon.
amateur to do it?
Was it Phil?
I think it was Phil. That's what my answer was going to be. I can't think of anyone since Phil. I know Shane Lowry won like the Irish Open. That was over in Europe as an amateur.
Yeah.
So there you go. There is our show. Thank you all for watching. Best luck with your picks this week. Like, subscribe, and all that good stuff if you're watching this on YouTube. And we'll be back next week for the Memorial Tournament. Talk to you then.
That's right.